Today, for a topic, I'll be talking about it's not your fault. And this here is something near and dear to me because a lot of times we go through things in life and we blame ourselves when truth be told that it wasn't our fault. For the failed marriage, it wasn't your fault that the person chose to walk away and abandon you. It wasn't your fault. We can only take blame for the things that we do. We are not responsible. You are not responsible for someone else's action. And oftentimes we blame ourselves, but I'm here to tell you today that it's not your fault. It's not your fault that the marriage was ended. It's not your fault that the person chose to walk away from you and just leave. It's not your fault. I remember years ago, when I was younger, I always, and even now to an extent, I was always attracted to older men. And one day, I will never forget this thing. I can't remember. I was up for prayer. And the man said to me, and that's the first time in my life I've heard that. And I was in my I'm going to say I was in my late 20s. The man said, it's not your fault. You are looking for your father in these men. And I started to cry because that's the first time in my life. Most, times I've been blamed for stuff when in actuality, it's not your fault. It's not your fault how you grow up. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that people treated you, mistreated you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault that so many bad things has happened. The Bible said the sins are passed down to the third and fourth generation, even though sometimes you may not even know who did it, but yet we still suffer. It's not your fault. So I'm here today to tell someone it's not your fault. It's not your fault why people treat you bad. It's not your fault why your spouse just got up and walked away and left you. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Stop crying and stop beating yourself up. It is not your fault. And God sees and God understands. That's why Jesus came on the earth and he was a man, so he could understand. He could understand our feelings. He knows what it is for Judas to hug him and kiss him and betray him. He knows what it feels like for people to come along and pretend to be in the boat with you, and all along they're just poking holes in the boat. He knows. He understands because he was a man. He understands. He understands when he was casting out the devils and they told him he was casting out the devil by the prince of the devil. He understands. God sees and knows. When Job was being attacked in the Bible, Job had no idea that in the heavenly realm, Satan and God had a discussion about him. Job did not know. But yet he saw the manifestations in his life. And so often when people see everything just going wrong, first thing they say is that you're wicked. You're wicked because if you were godly, if you were good, these things wouldn't happen to you. For that's what they said about Job, and that's what you're gonna see when all hell is breaking loose in your life. They've said, oh, you're a wicked person. But God knows the end from the beginning. God sees, and I'm here to tell you today, it's not your fault. It's not your fault why so many things has happened to you. It's not your fault that people use and abuse you and left you to die. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Bye.